We just had a massive farside CME launch from the sun, as you can see here in this chronograph imagery, and it will pop up right here. We get one blast initially, and then we get this super big coronal mass ejection that launched. And it's not Earth direct because there was no significant flaring on the Earth direct, Earth facing side of the sun. And there was also no, for example, plasma filaments that were launched or prominences or anything of that nature. So as far as we know, this is a farside blast, though I'm reporting on this before basically anyone has discussed it. The data is just running in right now. Now, the reason I'm doing the live stream and I didn't wait is because we have a proton radiation storm happening right now, triggered by that farside CME. So let's just look at this and then we'll look at that proton flux data. But what this means is that we have a bunch of solar protons and other heavier ions raining down into the Earth energetic system. I call it the Earth onion. And these go pretty deep into the onion. They don't just stick in the magnetosphere and the plasmasphere, they hit the ionosphere. They also go down deeper into the atmosphere and cause charging there. And so these proton radiation storms can be really powerful in terms of their immediate effects on the energetics of our planet. They are funneled to the polar cusp regions. Positive ions go to the northern polar cusp, and then electrons, negative ions, will go to the southern cusp because of the field line directions. But then those charges build up in the northern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere, and then they radiate out across the globe. And so if you are in the northern hemisphere specifically, this is a pretty good time to, way up there, high latitudes. You may see proton aurora. And we'll actually see after this farside CME at the very end, we see all these speckles come in. See that? Those are all the ions hitting the detector plate in the camera. And basically what we see is like someone shaking the snow globe. So we have this proton radiation storm that's coming in right now from this farside halo CME. And this is significant. When I saw this, I didn't know it was not Earth direct at the beginning. I was like, holy shit, what the heck? Because we just had a halo CME launch our way. And we'll look at that and we'll do a review of some of the things I've talked about in my past videos as it relates to the sun and this next stretch of 30 days or so. Right now, the planetary geometry is sun opposite Pluto with the Earth in the middle. So we have sun, Earth, Pluto in an exact alignment today. And so I'm not surprised that we get this very insane farside CME. And actually looking at this is not heading towards Earth, but instead it's heading, the opposite direction. So it's blasting everything out behind. If you have the Earth here, the sun there, and you have Pluto here, then it's blasting everything off in that part of the solar system. So I love to see you with the ponytail. I used to have a ponytail. Okay, so let's look at the proton radiation storm data, and then we will get back to some of this other data and we'll run through this. But this is our proton flux coming in. I'm going to update it and full screen it so you can see what I'm talking about right here. Really nice. This is our 3-day view. We see that things were flat and then we had a slight bump in the red line. This is our protons greater than 10 mega electron volts. We also have, you'll see here, blue, which is greater than 50, and green, which is greater than 100. And a mega electron volt is a way to measure the energy of an ion and the energy it takes to move a certain distance, basically. And so when you have 10 mega electron volts, that's significant. When you have 50 and 100, it's really, really powerful, especially when it's for protons, which have a lot of mass, 1,800 times more mass than an electron. So we have the greater than 10 mega electron volts already at the storm threshold. So we are in an S1 radiation storm right now. If I scroll down, you will see that right here. We are in an S1 radiation storm, but the blue and the green line have jumped up quite a bit too. And so this is a log scale that we're looking at. So it's important to keep that in mind. If we look at our values right here, they're all about 0.25 or so. They're all about flat. I mean, if we really go over just a day ago, you see that they're all about the same, all about 0.2. But if we go over, now we see that greater than 10 mega electron volts, the red line is 13, blue line is 4, and then green is 1.58. So going from 0.2 to even 1.5 or 1.6, right? That's a big difference. So you have 5, you have 8. That's an 8x increase in our greater than 100 mega electron volt protons, and a 13 times 5, you get like 70x increase in our greater than 10 mega electron volt protons. So this is the proton radiation storm that we're in right now. I know a lot of you are going to be asleep if you're on the East Coast, or if you're further east in the United States. So you're going to have enhanced energies during your bed if you're waking up and watching this hours later. If you're on the West Coast, you're active with this right now. If you're in Europe, you're waking up into this. And if you're in Asia, it's daylight hours for you. So these energetic effects are different depending on your circadian rhythm. And so during the day, you may find yourself more active during a proton radiation storm. At night, you may find yourself more restless with your sleep, or you may find yourself having enhanced dream activity. How will this affect people when they are outdoors? Well, in general, most of these ions are being absorbed into the atmosphere. They funnel down the field lines, but they are highly energetic, so they react with molecules as they pass down, and eventually they dissipate out. Now, of course, some of them are going to go through the atmosphere and interact at the ground surface. That's just a statistical probability function, basically. So you are going to have more of those going further down, but I wouldn't say the effect is super significant. I wouldn't be afraid to go outside. But most of this energy is being absorbed into the atmosphere, going from about 50 kilometers and up. Thank you, Stefan, for all that you do for all of us. Well, thank you all for supporting me and helping this channel grow. Why don't you use sidereal to calculate planetary positions to the stars? We can talk about that later. I'm going to talk about that. There are a few reasons why. So we can look at our sun here to show that there was nothing that occurred during this past 6 hours that would have caused that big halo CME on the Earth-facing side of the sun. Here we have a 304 angstrom view. We just saw this prominence launch from this region. This is sending a solar storm our way. There it is right there. Let me rewind that so you can see that. We see this prominence right here. Dark plasma, just go out like this. This solar storm is expected to arrive July 24th if you aren't up to date with my past video. But in general, if you look here, we didn't see any other prominences or plasma filaments launch at the very tail end of this imagery from SDO, which goes up to 2400 UTC. And if we go back to our coronagraph and we actually look at this one here, you will see this launching right at around 1200 UTC. So we'll keep an eye on this, or 2400 UTC. Keep an eye on this, and right there launches. So this is a close-up view. So if we scroll in a little bit and actually pause it, we can see here, we don't see it at midnight, basically, but then it starts to show up and very quickly blast off. Super fast, very, very high velocity. And so we also would want to check our 131 angstrom view of the sun for our most recent time slot, the past 6-8 hours or so, and there's going to be some flaring earlier if we look at our dates, right? We want to look at the 22nd, not the 21st. But as this goes on, you'll see that there's really no significant flaring that occurs starting around this window here. Nothing. So it's not Earth direct. This is not on the Earth-facing side of the sun by all the measures that we can look at. Here is our radio flux, or our X-ray flux, and we see actually the X-ray flux on the Earth-facing side was very flat and low during this massive solar explosion on the far side of the sun. But we are in this proton radiation storm as a result. So typically you need a solar explosion on the far western limb of the sun to cause a radiation storm on Earth, because that's a magnetically conjugate point for the Earth and the sun based on the Parker spiral dynamics. But this far side CME seems to be so powerful that it still triggered a proton radiation storm. This by no means is like the brunt full force impact of that. This is probably just like kind of the flank of the protons being emitted out, and we still see this pretty significant bump there. Now we do have a space weather model for part of this coronal mass ejection. NASA did release a space weather model showing the first of those CMEs that launched. If we go back, we will see here, we see this first one launch, that one, and then we get the full halo. And so NASA, they did make that model for the first one, as we can see, but they have not updated one showing that. So that will be probably tomorrow's video. These are not PJs, this is a shirt, right? It's just the camera angle. Hi, higher vibrations, welcome to the Soul Tribe. So we have a NASA model showing this one, but we don't have one for the other one yet, so we don't really know the velocity or anything. We can just estimate it by looking at the chronograph. We do have a solar storm that is headed our way based on the best available data. And so here we have our NOAA space weather model. I have shown this before. Here is this coronal mass ejection, this solar prominence that turned into a coronal mass ejection, sweep by the Earth on the 24th, raising the plasma density, increasing the velocity quite significantly. Watch down here. Look at the velocity, very high. Here's our scale bars. So high density, high velocity coming in on the 24th. We'll see if that actually occurs. The last solar storm that was forecasted was at G1. It did not happen. We did have an enhancement of the solar wind. We'll look at that really quick. This one's estimated to be a G2. So we'll see. But it's no surprise that we're having now this enhancement of solar activity right during all this activity with Pluto. Because I've been tracking this for a while, and it seems a little kind of bizarre to talk about it, how some little dwarf planet 50 AU out or 30 AU out can cause some sort of solar disturbance. But there's a really good correlation between notable transits with Pluto and the sun and other inner planets using the Western Tropical Astrology System. So the archetypal energy field has some influence over these through quantum physics and dynamics, it seems. I can't say I'm an expert on this, but I'm just tracking correlations. It's very interesting. I do want to show you the solar wind data really quick, and then I'm going to get into just some other background information. Then we'll do a short Q&A. This is not going to be a long video. Thank you all for being here, though. Really happy for you all to be in the live stream. I hope you find this information valuable and the live reporting valuable. Just grateful that everyone here is a part of the tribe. Everyone's joined the channel. We're nearly at 100,000 followers. I would have never thought this 2 years ago. Oh my God. So just very grateful to be here and to have created this community, and for you to all have come into this community through resonance. Here is our real-time solar wind. We can zoom that in, and we see here, I see those questions, I'll get to them in a second. We see here this enhancement in the total field strength going up to about 10, and we see this increase in the negative component there. So we do see a slight bump in the KP index, but nothing over really 3. So we did not have a geomagnetic storm yesterday or today like was kind of forecasted. It seems to just have been a flank impact, a subtle enhancement of the interplanetary magnetic field and the solar wind in general. You see the density went up here, right? But nothing dramatic. But on the 24th, that is very likely going to change. What about the Schumann? Schumann resonance is looking about the same as it normally does. I'm not going to be covering the Schumann resonance in this video. Can you please look at the sun pic on my page, community tab? I'll have to do that later. Do you have a degree in physics? I have a degree in geology. And then I went into geophysics, and then I've just been studying this like a madman ever since. I've read so many papers, it's crazy. And also just thought experiments, right? Very Einstein-esque, thinking about these dynamics and visualizing them, and I think that's very important. Here we have total solar irradiance going back to 2018, specifically January 2018. This is showing solar minimum. This is watts per square meter. Earth in its orbit typically receives around 1,360 watts per square meter of energy on the surface. But what happens is that this increases during solar maximum and becomes more volatile. And that's what we're seeing right now. So here's solar minimum. We see that the volatility is fairly low. There's not much change in that total solar irradiance. This is all the energy the sun is pushing out towards the Earth. But then during solar maximum, it goes up. Here it's 1,361.5. There it's 1,363.5. So it goes up and becomes much bigger in its volatility. That is one of the larger forces that's causing all the different energies on our planet to be more volatile, chaotic, and to increase this polarity that we're seeing. We're seeing an increase in polarization, stronger positive and negative polarities, you could say. Thank you, more crystal money. Thank you, God bless. I do need to add some crystals to my windowsill right over here and get this whole area just energetically harmonized, but it is feeling pretty good. My apartment is slowly coming together, so thank you so much. And so yeah, right now we are in this period where total solar output is at its highest as compared to what it was during solar minimum, and also as compared to solar cycle 24, which was pretty weak. So this is a stronger solar cycle thus far. Solar cycle 24 has been weaker. And so this is the strongest energy output that we've seen from the sun going all the way back to the early 2000s, 1999, 2000, 2001. Everything that happened around Y2K, all the kind of chaos and chaotic thoughts that people had back then, the internet and everything's going to, explode basically because of the clock switch, right? We were really looking back in hindsight, very kind of off tilt and ungrounded, but we just didn't know. And so we are in similar energies now. I think we're seeing that play out pretty clearly. And we're definitely much more unstable now in our collective energy, in our geophysical energies, our bioenergies, all this stuff as compared to just solar minimum back here in 2018, 2019. How do we get me on Joe Rogan? I don't know. Joe Rogan needs to get an interest in this. It's really, I think, him having an interest, and then he invites people on. But that'd be fun. I'm pretty knowledgeable about a lot of things. I think I'd be a good guest. But if he likes me, then I'll jump on. I have no problem jumping on Joe Rogan. That'd be cool. How long does this solar cycle last? Solar cycle 25 will start to go into the descending phase, probably around 2027. Like 2026, 2027, it depends. It could be a longer kind of plateau, but we'll be at the next solar minimum around 2030, 2032. So it does take a while. The solar cycle is about 12 years on average. Now, what I also wanted to talk about before we go into the Q&A and then wrap the video is just kind of, I'm covering some of the things I've talked about in my past videos, my past two videos, which is that this is a notable solar cycle that we're in right now because Pluto is in Aquarius, the sign that is opposite Leo. We're using Western tropical astrology, which is based on these seasons using the equinox and the solstice points, the archetypal energies of those. This is different than true sky position. And in many ways, Western tropical astrology is a better measure of these archetypal energies because the true sky position isn't always changing. It's based on the seasons. So this is really based on our local reference frame. The degree points are not changing as it relates to our solar system reference frame because once you take into account the background stars, what was once 24 degrees is no longer 24 degrees, it's now 22 degrees or whatever. And so if there are certain geometric angles in our solar system that are important and charged with certain energies, like the Sabian symbols, you can't track that with sidereal in true sky position. So I use sidereal and true sky position just when I'm looking up at the stars just outside doing astronomy, right? I think that's cool. I also use it for calculating astrological ages, and I do practice it, and both of them kind of work. But I use Western tropical astrology to measure the archetypal energies based on the seasons and also based on specific geometric degree points in our local solar system frame that does not change over time. It's very important. And we continuously see that system be very significant in terms of critical degree points, significant events, things of that nature. More significant than sidereal, I would say. I need to study sidereal a little bit more, but still it seems to lie in a more significant category. Case in point, when Pluto was in Leo last, we had the strongest solar cycle, this one right here, 19. Right when Pluto exited Leo, we had the strongest solar cycle since 1770 and 1780. And so we had very strong solar cycles when Pluto was in Leo. Now we have Pluto in Aquarius opposite Leo. And if we go to that data, we see the strongest solar cycle in recorded history right at the beginning of Pluto in Aquarius, which is about the same degree point right now. So we're measuring the same solar system degree point, and we had right here, basically, when Pluto's at 29 Capricorn, same as today for the Western tropical astrology, we see an incredibly strong solar cycle 3, right around the American Revolution, and then also the tail end here and the beginning of the French Revolution for number 4, Pluto in Aquarius. So these are the archetypal energies. When you have Pluto in Leo or Pluto in Aquarius, you have very significant world events. And when you have that during solar maximum, it's supercharged even more because the sun has more energy output overall. So again, look at our dates here, right? This is leading up to World War II. This is like World War II right here. And then we have everything that happened afterwards, the Cold War, Korean War, the arms race, nuclear bombs are being set off in the atmosphere and on islands and in the USSR. I mean, this is a crazy time period, Pluto and Leo. We're now in Pluto and Aquarius again. So it's resonating with these energies very much. And right now we are at maximum for this solar cycle. So I see some questions there. Thanks for answering my question on here. You do seem very knowledgeable. When those energies evolve over time in concert with the precession? Well, we don't even know what causes precession. That's the thing. So I think there's much more we don't know. And what is precession? To answer the question for some people that know, is that every year when we take the exact time of the equinox, we see that the background star sky map shifts retrograde by 50 arc seconds. So you have a degree, 1 degree, there's 360 degrees, right? Then you have 60 arc minutes per degree, and you have 60 arc seconds per 1 arc minute. So it's a very slow precession, but you slowly get the sky position changing such that about every 72 years, the sky shifts by 1 degree, and this creates the astrological ages. The thing is, though, is that we don't know what causes precession. We have the theory that was presented by Newton that it's based on gravitational irregularities with the Earth caused by the moon and the sun, and the Earth is wobbling on its axis. But that equation is always being reevaluated. The rate of precession seems to be increasing, and it doesn't seem to be an accurate, good theory for precession. There's other ones out there which are better in their predictive quality. So we don't know what's causing precession. We just know that there is a change outside the local reference frame of our solar system. If you look at our solar system, we have our reference frame there. If you go then outside to the constellations, that is changing. Maybe the solar system is on an elliptical orbit and that's causing precession. That's what I think. I think that's much more likely. Everything else is on an elliptical orbit. Why not the solar system? So we kind of have to understand precession before we can understand how the energies are changing. I do think there's energies coming in from these constellations, but I think also the archetypal energies that we've built up in our kind of collective quantum consciousness field are very, very powerful. And the system that more people use is a system that's probably going to be more accurate until there's a big consciousness shift to a different one. And so sidereal is really great it's really great all around. I mean, lots of people use it very accurately. It's really great for the astrological ages, but Western tropical astrology really does work nicely in my experience and observation for our kind of day-to-day reality. But you can use both. I use both. But only the sidereal people get angry at me. Only you guys are typing in the comments like, why don't you use sidereal? You're not a real scientist. Like, it's like an ego thing. I don't know what it is. So Q&A is open. If you have any questions, please ask them. I'll take just a few questions. It is late here. And if not, then we'll sign off. But let's just look at this Halo CME one more time. We are in this radiation storm. So I hope you're all feeling well. I recommend you do some grounding if you can, because radiation storms are quite powerful. We do have a question. Our poles have shifted as well. The equinox doesn't happen at the same time either, so I believe tropical is not consistent. Do you mean our rotation axis, like our geographic pole? Which poles? We have a whole bunch of poles. And yeah, equinox doesn't happen at the same time. That's because that's also, that's the whole thing. We barely understand this system. Everything's moving. The Earth is rotating, the moon is rotating around, the sun also has its barycenter, it's moving around, all the planets, like, it's impossible to get a real fix on what's actually happening because everything's moving all the time and it's semi-chaotic. So that's why it's an impossible thing. I mean, people like to then like put these nice clean things and say, we figured it out, but we really haven't. And we're still figuring out approximations for the orbits and everything and what the actual model of our solar system is. There's other people out there that have very convincing data and evidence that, it's our model of the solar system is a little bit different. Like there's different ways to look at things in our reference frame and the movement of the planets. So yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, I studied into this a lot over the past few months, and I just find that Western tropical astrology consistently works for these energies. Like here we have this massive farside CME blasted off from the sun the day that the sun in Western tropical astrology enters Leo, which is the sign that the sun rules, opposite Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius, which is where the sun is in fall. It's just very perfect timing. You don't have that timing with sidereal. Right now the sun's still in Cancer, and that's more about the moon. So it doesn't, it doesn't resonate as much. How are animals affected? Well, it depends on the animal. Some animals are more bioelectrically sensitive than others. And especially, for example, if you have some sort of like bioelectric condition or just a lot of inflammation or things of this nature, your energy system, your metabolism is more volatile, then these things will affect you stronger. And so like the older you are, the more it'll affect you. So if you have like an old dog or an old cat, then perhaps it'll affect them more. And there's so many anecdotal reports of dogs and cats and other animals freaking out before an earthquake happens. They're more in tune with their natural instincts. They feel these energies better. And so if you do have a pet that has some sort of health problem or is older, then they could very well feel these. Or if you just have a pet that's super sensitive. But it really depends on the strength. We see this proton storm now is starting to re-strengthen. Let me update this here. But this is not the strongest proton radiation storm we've ever seen. This could be stronger, but it is significant. It's happening right now. So I see you all in the chat there. I just got here. Are gamma rays affecting the radiation levels? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Like gamma rays from the sun? Yeah, the sun would release more gamma rays during solar maximum than it would during solar minimum. So we do have more overall. The first image of black hole is behind sun. What do you think about solar system slingshot orbit headed to center, return to center ascension? I'm not sure what you mean there. Solar system slingshot orbit headed to, like the black hole headed to our sun. That's another kind of theoretical thing too. Black holes is that what happened is Einstein created relativity and special relativity, and physicists started playing with the equations. He proved special relativity to some degree, right, with an eclipse and saw the refraction of light, and that proved special relativity, but it didn't prove all the edge cases. It was just one good example of special relativity. And then as they started to probe into these equations, they found where light and matter and everything just condensed into black holes. And so when you see these images that they've created of black holes, they're, it's all about how they're taking these images and compiling them and processing them. And that's why there's a lot of people saying NASA is all CGI. They use a lot of CGI. They use a lot of image processing techniques. It's not all CGI. You can take your telescope, point at the sun, and see the sunspots. But black holes are still very much like a kind of hypothetical thing. Like no one's actually gone up to a black hole and, gone past that barrier, the point of no return. And so is there a black hole, a primordial black hole in our solar system? We don't know. There's some theories out there that's causing the gravitational instabilities of the dwarf planets in the Kuiper belt. That's a primordial black hole. Could also be Planet X. Could also be an ultra-wide binary star companion. Once you learn a little bit about this stuff, you realize that everyone's just guessing, and then some people are just more confident in their guess. And so they write it in such a way, or they state it in such a way that it comes off a very, very much like, I know what it is and I'm telling the truth and you got to believe me. My evidence is 100% solid. But once you start to research into it and you see these things, you can see that it's really everyone's just giving their best assessment and trying to figure out what fits the observations that we have. Do radiation storms or proton storms have any significant effects or reaction with copper, specifically in soil or our biology? I mean, they shouldn't, because again, most of them are being absorbed into the upper atmosphere. But they're creating telluric currents, and copper is extremely conductive. So you can have geomagnetically induced telluric currents in things that are very conductive. And they're also long, like a utility line. If you have a long steel case utility line, you'll have induced currents preferentially flow along that rather than the ground, because while the ground is conductive, it's not as conductive as steel. Steel is many orders of magnitude more conductive than, for example, clay soil. So unless you have long copper lines that are buried, you're not going to get any significant telluric currents, enhanced along those lines. But if you do have, for example, really long copper lines buried, let's say you have a garden plot and you have them like encased with copper lines like this, you would have an enhancement of these geomagnetically induced currents, and perhaps that's good for promoting growth and health and everything for your garden. I'm not really an expert there, but that's what some people are researching into and have asked me questions on. So yeah, I'm going to sign off there. Love you all. Thanks for joining in on this live stream, and I hope you found this valuable. Again, we'll go back to our chronograph here and just look at this epic farside CME. Let me just refresh this so we get the latest data. And yeah, I mean, just really, when I saw this, I didn't know it was still like non-Earth facing. I was like, what the heck? We got a crazy storm headed our way. But it turns out this is a farside blast. I mean, I haven't read any other reports from anyone confirming this. This is just my own analysis. But again, we checked the sun. We didn't see anything on the different wavelengths, and our X-ray flux is flat. So this is a farside blast. It's not headed our way, but we are in a proton radiation storm. We also now just had the sun move into Leo, Pluto's in Aquarius, building this tension. These energies are going, even crazier. And we have that solar storm coming in around July 24th, according to the best estimates and the models. And we saw that halo CME from the other solar storm before launched at a pretty high velocity. Not this big, not this monstrous, but still pretty significant. So proton radiation storm right now. Geomagnetic storm starting around maybe the 23rd, 24th, 25th. And then we'll see what happens the next few days. If you'd like to find out, please like the video. Helps the channel grow. And then subscribe to stay appraised. And if you want to be part of these live streams when they happen, then I guess click that notification bell. I don't really know the deal with that, but do all the things. And I'll see you all in the next video. Love and light. Namaste. God bless. Wish you all well. Stay healthy. And I'll see you all in the next one.